Good morning to those who are really viewing to my channel. Have a nice day to all of you. So, what we are talking about today is about one of the most important strategies in the 21st century in teaching. We call this the design thinking. So, what is design thinking? Design thinking is a process for creative problem solving. So, we know that in today's time, we have a lot of problems coming our way, problems in the family, problems in the community, problems of the nation, and of course, problems of the world. So, indeed, we want our learners as early as in the graders in high school and above all in college and in advanced education to respond to the realities of these problems and even suggest better solutions to improve the quality of life. Hence, there is a need for all educators all over the world to use design thinking. Now, design thinking utilizes elements from the designer's toolkit like empathy and experimentation to arrive at innovative solutions. So, what makes design thinking different from other ordinary strategies in teaching? Now, we know from a fact that in the past, the cognitive domains are purely emphasized in our teaching and learning process. And of course, the psychomotor and affective domain will be done at the last. But in the design thinking, though these three domains of learning are emphasized, but more emphasis at the beginning of the lesson that the affective domain is emphasized. Why? Because at the very beginning, in the design thinking process, the first step is empathize. Now, to empathize is this is really the first step of the design thinking that the teacher or the professor allow students to conduct research to develop an understanding of of themselves, and the realities of the problem surrounding around them. So this is the time that the students will be exposed to the problem in itself and try to feel and empathize how they can really solve about the problem. So after that, when the empathize is done, then the next step is about defining. So to define is to get all the informations needed, regarding the problem or the topic selected in that particular competency for the week. And this is where that all research facts that are generated from the empathy part will be incorporated that surrounds around the problem in itself. And then this is the time that the students will have cognitive understanding, on the nature of the problem, like for example, the definition of the problem, the causes of the problem, and of course, the possible solutions of the problem will be anticipated as the students will be going to journey to the next step, which is ideating. Now, how to ideate? Now, ideating is to generate a range of crazy, creative ideas. So, this is now the time that the students will be exposed to a lot of thoughts, and visualize these ideas when it comes to the solution of the problem. So, they welcome the group, the team welcomes the different ideas of the members of the team in a class, or it might be in an organization. And then after that, after the brainstorming is being conducted in the step, then they are ready to assess this one, which of these ideas that are applicable when they are going to do the prototype. So the prototype is what we call the building of real, feasible, and tactile and representations, a range of different ideas that the students really have yielded, in the ideating part. So this is now the time that they are going to build and they are going to craft, they are going to invent new things in order to prepare, the solutions of the problem. And once they are done with it, then these groups of students will be presenting their prototype, like for example of the prototype that some of my students are doing. They are really presenting a board resolutions that they crafted, a manifesto for peace, and the like. So once they are done of this, they are ready to hurdle the next step, and that is testing. So testing is really returning to the different members of the class, while the leaders of the various teams will present, and they're ready for critiquing and suggestions uh, of the a crafted what do you call this prototypes. And once all the suggestions are done by the members of the class, then the proponents of the prototype will have to revise and improve the existing prototype, before they can really proceed to the last step of the process, and that is to implement. Now, implementing is putting the vision into effect. So this is now the time that the students will have to organize and try to connect with other agencies of government and non-government organizations, even TV network, to have their outputs, their tested prototype will be implemented. So this is now the time that the cycle ends, no, in the design thinking. So if we are going to go back to the six steps of the design thinking strategy, like empathize, define, ideate, prototype, test, and implement. These six can be categorized into three major domains, and these are what we call understanding, that includes empathy and define. Uh, and then we have what we call explore for ideate and prototype. And then finally, for test and implement, this is what we call to materialize. So if we are going to try to uh, realize and recon this to the three domains of learning, these three domains of learning are fully integrated within the in design thinking cycle. So for example, in empathy, there is really the affective part, where they have to be ready to understand what is the nature of the problem when they define it. And of course, there is a lot of so much cognitive and metacognitive process in the ideating. And in the prototyping, this is where the psychomotor domain comes in. And in the testing and implementing, this is where the cognitive and metacognitive functions also work. And finally, when they implement it towards the last phase of the design thinking, this is where the psychomotor domain is integrated in the instructional process. So, I welcome everybody, to those who are really interested in, to view this channel and make use of the design thinking process in all aspects of uh, our classroom subject matter, our competencies for the week, no, and of course our professional and exit outcomes that we wanted our students to um, uh, realize, no, in order for them to become successful in life. So there are questions that some educators are puzzled. So they are confronted with this reality. So that it is really difficult for us to use design thinking in other disciplines, like that in content-oriented courses, history, literature, and the like. But I beg to disagree, because design thinking can be used in all subject areas, ranging from mathematics, science, literature, history, geography, social studies, no, music, physical education, the technology courses. So there is no discrimination, and of course, what we call this clustering of what specific strategies can be used among all these disciplines that I mentioned. So, what is really the secret of success when it comes to the use or utilization of design thinking is be creative all the times and think about the visualization that the success of learning depends from the learners and not from the teachers. Thank you very much. Good morning.